Hello and welcome. Today on BOI Weekly, federal government unveils the second and final phases of its Survival Fund and Guaranteed Offtake Stimulus Scheme as it reopens the registration portal for states that have not met their participation quotas. The second phase of the 75 billion naira fund includes the Guaranteed Offtake Scheme as well as the General MSME Fund, under which at least 100,000 local producers will enjoy patronage from the federal government, and others will get a one-time grant of between 30 and 50,000 naira. The scheme was the federal government's response to support local entrepreneurs whose businesses have taken a direct hit from the socio-economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, at a separate engagement forum, some of the beneficiaries of the payroll support track of the fund expressed their appreciation to the federal government for the initiative. The event was also an opportunity for managers of the scheme to get feedback from the beneficiaries on how to progressively improve the process. I'm Kayode Alayande. Welcome to the program. On October the 1st, 2020, the federal government launched a 75 billion naira social investment program called the Survival Fund and Guaranteed Offtake Stimulus Scheme. The program is one of the critical components of the economic stimulus plan signed by President Muhammadu Buhari under the leadership of Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The Survival Fund is the government's response to shield different classes of micro, small and medium enterprises in the country from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. 5 months on, 3 of 5 components under the first phase of the initiative have begun and are being successfully executed. These are payroll support, in which the federal government is helping 500,000 vulnerable MSMEs to meet their payroll obligations for 3 months. Second, artisans and transport workers support, which is providing no fewer than 330,000 artisans and transport businesses nationwide with at least a 30,000 naira grant. And third, the formalization support, providing free CAC business name registration for 250,000 new businesses across the country. The initiative is now set to move into the second phase, which has 2 more components: the General MSME Grant and the Guaranteed Offtake Stimulus Scheme. The Survival Fund Steering Committee, under the chairmanship of the Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Ambassador Mariam Katagum, recently held a press conference to launch the second phase of the program. This particular briefing is different in that it serves 2 purposes. One, to give a report on the work done so far and to launch the second and remaining phases of the scheme, the Guaranteed Offtake Scheme and the General MSME Grant. The Minister of State began by thanking the press for support and interest in following and reporting on the program, whilst providing constructive feedback.
I'm very much aware of your support so far and want to commend you for your continued interest and monitoring of the execution of the schemes with a view to guaranteeing their seamless implementation and providing us with feedback from time to time. My briefing this afternoon, therefore, is to inform you that the federal government is set to roll out the last 2 components of the schemes under the MSME Survival Fund, namely the Guaranteed Offtake Scheme and the General MSME Grant.
Providing a little bit of background, Ambassador Mariam Katagum briefly explains how the intervention came about and laid out the structure of the initiative while giving a report on work done so far.
You will recall that President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, on the 1st of July 2020, approved the National Economic Sustainability Plan presented by His Excellency the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, whom he had earlier mandated to chair the National Economic Sustainability Committee. Two of the components approved under the Economic Sustainability Plan are the MSME Survival Fund and Guaranteed Offtake Scheme. The Steering Committee approved the implementation of these two schemes in two distinct parts: the Payroll Support Scheme, the Artisan and Transport Scheme, Formalization Support Scheme, the General MSME Grant, and the Guaranteed Offtake Scheme. It is also important to bring you up to speed on where we are with the other components of the schemes. So far, the implementation of the Survival Fund is progressing steadily with the activation of 3 tracks across the country. And these are the Payroll Support Scheme, the Artisan and Transport Scheme, and Formalization Support Schemes.
Despite the results, the federal government believes there are still more Nigerians out there who are in dire need of intervention as the Minister of State goes ahead to launch the 2 remaining tracks of the Survival Fund.
As part of the efforts of the federal government to build on the successes recorded in the implementation of other components of the scheme, and in line with the plan to fully rejuvenate the economy, especially micro, small, and medium enterprises, the federal government is set to roll out the last 2 components of the MSME Survival Fund. And these are the Guaranteed Offtake Scheme and the General MSME Grant. It is important to note that the purpose of the Guaranteed Offtake Scheme is to stimulate direct local production by enabling 100,000 MSMEs across the country who are in the production sector. They will be enabled with funds to produce post-COVID lockdown stimulus products. The scheme will give preference to products produced in reasonably sufficient volumes in each state of the Federation, which have the proven propensity to create jobs and have a multiplier effect on the surrounding economy. These products include face masks, hand sanitizers, liquid soap, disinfectants, and processed food. The target beneficiaries will be MSMEs registered in Nigeria and owned by Nigerians. These entities will get patronage from government via procurement of products with a value of 150,000 naira per business entity. Let me also note that the General MSME Grant is meant to give a one-off 50,000 grant to 100,000 MSMEs who did not meet the qualification of the payroll support or guaranteed offtake schemes. Now let me pause a bit here. When we did the payroll support, we talked of entities that had staff, anything above 3, up to 50, 100, and we gave support to between 3 up to 10. Whether 50,000 or 30,000 support was given. But there are some MSMEs that are either one-man, two-man enterprises, busy producing maybe in a house. So the purpose is to give these kind of MSMEs a 50,000 one-off grant, which we hope will be a kind of direct cash injection into their business.
On his part, the Special Advisor to the President on MSMEs, Office of the Vice President, Mr. Tola Johnson, who's also the Secretary of the Steering Committee for the Survival Fund, lays out the guidelines as well as registration and qualification requirements for willing applicants under the 2 schemes being launched. But he begins with a disclaimer.
There's no aspect of this scheme that you are required to pay anyone, for any process, and no one can influence anything. So everything is actually open in our portal, and it is absolutely free, basically. So for the MSME general grants, so that we know exactly those that want to apply, like Her Excellency had stressed, you must have your CAC documentation. Those are key things. You must have your CAC documentation. You must be a Nigerian. You have a minimum of 2 staff. It can be you have a minimum of 2 staff. Now, to also bring in that, there are going to be 100,000 businesses across the country that will benefit. Nigerians are going to be waiting, and it is going to be the first come, first serve 100,000. No, there's no other way about it.
In order to ensure that all states of the Federation feel the impact of the Survival Fund, states were allotted quotas for a specific number of beneficiaries under the payroll support scheme.
So 34 states will have 2,640 businesses. Abia State will have 3,080 businesses. Kano State will have 3,280 businesses, while Lagos State will have 3,880 businesses. So that will cumulatively give you the 100,000 that we are looking for. Now for the MSME grants, it is the same number of 100,000 businesses that we're looking for, and to apply, it's the same principle basically. But the only thing in this one is that it can be a one-man business.
The steering committee had to reopen the portal to give a window of opportunity to states that had not yet exhausted their quotas of participation.
We opened the portal for 6 weeks and got 400, and we got slightly less than 500. And that was because of our party. People did not believe that a government scheme can go so seamless. They've never really had it that good. When we opened for 7 days, we got almost 1,892,000. And there was still cry, oh, please, Your Excellency, can you extend it? So, Your Excellency had to tell them that we are looking for 204,000 to make up our 500,000 from the payroll. We had gotten 296,000 from the first phase. So we were short 204,000, and that was why we had to go back to the portal to reopen it.
After the major announcements were made, the steering committee answered questions from members of the press bordering on requirements for registration of different classes of applicants and how much has been disbursed so far from funds released to the scheme.
So far from what has been released, we've spent roughly 27 billion, and we're waiting for the release of the second tranche, because we're just given about half the amount, and as I said, we've submitted according to a template given by Ministry of Finance, and then we're making a full report on update on implementation to the National Economic Sustainability Committee on Monday.
Dr. Diko Rada, Director General of SMEDAN, who also leads the Media and Logistics Subcommittee, delivers the goodwill message.
We are happy to hear that the press and the general public were happy with the implementation of the Survival Fund scheme. And to be honest with you, we were able to achieve this far because of the able leadership of the Honorable Minister of State, Hajia Mariam Katagun. We thank you very much, Ma, for your leadership. And we thank you, generally, the press, for being very friendly to us and for saying the truth and delivering the truth. In fact, this is the first time in the history that we see a program being run by the federal government and which every Nigerian believes in it. So we thank God for that. And for the members of the steering committee, who are my colleagues, we cannot achieve this far without your contribution, without your support.
Stakeholder engagement and management is key to the success of social intervention programs, and the Survival Fund is no different. That's why, at a separate event in Abuja, the nation's capital, the Survival Fund team organized this forum to engage some of the beneficiaries under the payroll support track of the program so as to get some feedback.
We would have been happy if...
The event was also an opportunity for the participants to ask questions on whatever they may consider knotty issues. This, the organizers believe, will position them to better understand the Nigerian MSME landscape, make better decisions and serve the beneficiaries better, especially as the second phase of the scheme gets underway. In his welcome address, the Bank of Industry's stakeholder management representative assures the participants that the payroll support scheme will deliver on its promise and asked them to feel free to express their views on the program.
This program is to give money to pay salaries of a certain number of employees of those companies for 3 months. So they will receive a 50,000 naira payment for 3 months. The program has started. Companies have received money nationwide, and we are just here to celebrate.
One after the other, the beneficiaries come forward to appreciate the federal government for creating such an initiative, each describing the impact of the support on his business.
Agro company will create online content for farmers, minimize marketing costs by 85%. We do B2B and B2C. Actually, the Survivor Fund program have really helped us. Our staff strength, we are 7. We're more than 7, but because of COVID-19, we had to reduce our number of staff, planning to reduce more before the program came in. So we maintained that 7, and it has been awesome. Truly, the Survivor Fund have really helped us, and we hope to continue to have such kind of access to such kind of benefits, so that we'll sustain the company and at the same time sustain our staffs.
I want to use this medium to appreciate this survival fund, since they've come to help us to do what they are doing now. May the Almighty God bless them. That's what I have to say for now.
Virtually every business in the country and worldwide is affected by the COVID-19 due to the shutdown that happened within the span period that it took place. We are glad, and where we are wondering how we'll be able to take off, this initiative came up, and we keyed into it, applied as the information came. Of course, I heard that from the news, and we decided to go to the platform and key into it. And good enough, we were also slated for part of the beneficiaries, and we got the benefit. So the rest workers were paid 30,000 each, and for us we got 50,000.
We kindly want to appreciate the Survivor Fund, the federal government, for this initiative. Indeed, it's a good one. We are beneficiary of the fund.
No, in oil palm, when the season comes, and you cannot cut the palm fruit for production, it will just waste away, and you cannot retrieve that. Now the COVID-19 came, and we heard it online that the portal is open, and we applied. Even we have more than up to 20 staff, but they permitted us with just 10, and actually we key in, and the relief came. It helped in reviving the company in a way. So I'm very grateful for federal government to introduce that support program.
Despite the praises, the managers of the Survival Fund Payroll Support Scheme are equally interested in mining constructive feedback from the beneficiaries, especially regarding service delivery, so they can improve the process.
Initially, we are 15.
Okay.
But along the line, you know, the COVID-19 really affected the system. So about 3 or 4 has to drop. So the other ones, we try what we could to see how we paying them before the Survivor Fund came in. So we applied for 10 anyway, and they paid 9 of us. So January they paid 8. But the last one was paid, in December they paid 8. The last one, which was January 13, thereabout, I was not paid, and they paid others.
You were not paid, sir?
But no problem.
Wow, okay.
But it was okay. It was okay. So I would love if the federal government can extend this, maybe for additional more time, so that we can recover fully. Because it wasn't an easy tax. But honestly, it wasn't an easy tax. Especially for the private schools.
Some of the names were not, some of people were not enlisted. I think they dropped 1 or 2 in the company. One of the questions I want to ask, how long will it continue? It has gone for 3 months now, and we want to ask if it will continue. We would have be happy if this will continue for the rest of the year, since COVID-19 is still around the corner and is affecting. That is one question. Secondly, I want to ask if any of the staff happen to be dropped as a result of some disciplinary measure or due to one or two things, infringement committed against the company, and we decide to drop these workers. How do we replace, or how do we stop that from going to that account?
Like last month, December, 3 of my staff was not served. And then January, 2 was not served. 1 was served twice and later reversed.
Actually, the program was open to help the company. And when some of the staff receive that money, they feel it's from federal government, and they are still persisting that I will still pay them. The money got straight to their account, and they are still persisting that I should still be paying them, different from the relief.
And here, the Bank of Industry's representative gives an abridged update on the penetration of the scheme.
So far for the payroll support program, about 64,000 companies have been verified. A lot more of them applied. About 311,000 individual employees of these companies have received these benefits. Some have elapsed because they've run through 3 months of the program. Some are in month 2, and some are in month 1, and some will still benefit. So that is the update of the program so far. Once the program is concluded, all numbers of beneficiaries, companies, and amounts, total amounts will be given out to the public.
At the end of the day, satisfied with the openness of the beneficiaries and armed with some measure of feedback, the BOI's representative assures the beneficiaries the government would process their feedback and do the needful.
We have taken notice of all of their complaints today, and I've told them that for any complaint they have, they need to reach out to the program delivery office, because they are the ones that know the details of which beneficiary was disbursed to which one was. So they have the actual details of the complaints. I will also relay that information to that office to expect this communication from the beneficiary companies and from the beneficiaries, so these problems can be addressed immediately, because this is a program for the benefit of all Nigerians. So what good is it if some are benefiting and some are supposed to benefit who don't benefit? So I'm assuring you that this will be solved by the program delivery office, and all beneficiaries that were supposed to get the money will get this money. The program was designed for 3 months. It was approved for 3 months. For now, that is the status quo. But as we have heard all the requests and the cries from the beneficiaries for an extension, we will carry that to our principals and see what can be done. Because we all know resources are finite these days. The global economy is tough. So with the limited resources the federal government has, they are doing what they can. But we all know the federal government is not deaf. They are willing to listen. So we will take all these and go back to them and see whether it can be extended and see what can be done.
The federal government continues to find ways to ensure no Nigerian is left in the cold, even as the world battles the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic turbulence that came with it. Aside from the post-COVID interventions, the federal government, through the Bank of Industry, has a wide variety of funds that small businesses can benefit from. You can only know them if you reach out to the BOI by visiting their website at boi.ng or call at any of their branches closest to you. That will be our package on the program today. Many thanks for watching. I'm Kaede Alayode. Bye now.